Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Tuesday, August 10th. I'll start with roll call on the left. Kathy Mr. Harris.
Lindsay Jocelyn.
Carlos Jardins.
Rod Shivik.
Brian Gray.
Marianne Chinati.
Edie O'Neill. So I will appoint Kathy for Sean. So public hearing, item A, Z 2021-2048, continuation of KA&G Development, LLC, requesting a two-lot re-subdivision on property located on Sterling Hill Road, Moosup, map 23, block 58, lot 6, RA 40 zoning district. Do we have someone to speak for the applicant?
Yes. My name is David Howell, I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor with Laterals. So this is a re-subdivision of an 11.5 or so acre parcel of land on the south side of Sterling Hill Road. The subject of a subdivision this commission approved late last year. So this is the re-subdivision of that lot into two building lots. Just to go over the rules that we have in place, wetlands has approved this application. The Northeast District Department of Health has approved this application. So we're here seeking this as the last step in the approval process. You can see on sheet 2 of the plan set, which is the subdivision map, there's a large percentage of the property here in Teton Brook Rural, which is dedicated to open space. That comprises almost 41% of the subdivision area. And that area is currently restricted with covenants and restrictions on file and the land records, which remain in place for this re-subdivision. On sheet 3 of the plans, we've provided conceptual site development plan showing how the house as well as septic systems and driveways could potentially be situated on these lots. You can see each lot contains the minimum required buildable area for the zone, and each lot would be served by its own driveway, its own well, and its own septic system. We've shown clearing limits along Sterling Hill Road, such that each driveway would have a safe sight line. And that's really it. It's a very simple project. Any questions? Happy to address them.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody in the audience with a comment or question on this application, if you could please stand up, state your name and your question for the commission.
Yeah, Joel Frankfurt. I live on 34 Lily Bridge Road, which is the back side of this property. And I have a well, a dug well.
This is the Sterling Hill property, Sterling Hill Road.
No, I thought this was Tarbox.
Nope, this application is Sterling Hill Road. Tarbox is further down the agenda.
Thought it was A on the agenda.
Nope,
the
it's-
paper was A.
Nope, it's item F. So we'll get there.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Sorry.
That's okay. So anyone with a comment or question on the two-lot re-subdivision for Sterling Hill Road? Any comments or questions from board members? Any comments, questions, clarification from staff?
No, this seems to meet all of our regulations. I have one question. Is there a note on there that the well has to be drilled first? I know it was on the previous point, on the previous subdivision.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're good?
Okay. So hearing no other comments from the public or from the board or from the staff, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Roz, second by John. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. Moving on to item B, Z 2021-2126 of Charles W. Porson, requesting a special permit for a 494 square foot accessory apartment at 4 Stonehouse Drive, Assessors map 3M, block 109, lot 19, RA 60 zoning district. Do we have someone to speak for the applicant? Go ahead.
My name is Charles Porson III. My father's the one that originally owned the property. When he bought the property, I know it had an accessory apartment already in it, just it was never zoned that way or put through. So I'm just requesting a special permit for that.
Do we have the floor plan for this right now? And this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience with a comment or question on this application, this is your opportunity. Any comments or questions from board members? Ryan has the floor, so I'm coming this way. Any comments from staff?
There was a letter submitted for the public hearing record, dated, it was received in the town clerk's office August 5th, 2021. If the chair would like, I'm happy to read it into the record.
Sure.
Received for record at the Plainfield, Connecticut on August 5th, 2021 at 11:20 a.m. Barbie J. Gardner, Town Clerk. Planning and Zoning Commission, my name is Antonella Roy of 8 Stonehouse Drive, Moosup, Connecticut 06354, the adjacent property to 4 Stonehouse Drive. We are asking the Commission to table item Z2021-2126, Charles W. Porson, special permit for 494 Accessory at 4 Stonehouse Drive for further review of all items addressed in this letter. Item 1. The property is owned by Porson Charles W. Jr. and Porson Family LLC, which he has passed on March 30th, 2021. Is there formal public documentation the business has been transferred to Charles W. Porson III? The LLC is owned by Charles W. Porson. Item 2. Multifamily apartments lower the value of single-family homes in the neighborhood considerably as a cul-de-sac. A. People who live in apartments are less desirable neighbors and more likely to engage in crime or other antisocial behavior. B. Apartments overburden schools, produce less revenue for local governments, and require more infrastructure support. C. High-density housing creates traffic congestion and parking problems. D. Apartments are typically treated as commercial real estate. E. Tenants don't always maintain homes to the level that owners who actually live in the property do. When homes get run down, the whole neighborhood suffers. F. Concern of community character will be affected. Item 3. The project definition has not been spelled out so that neighbors understand what type of project is proposed in their backyard. A. Is an affordable housing planned for this location? B. Has parking been evaluated? C. The existing owner's negligence of current piping and water runoff on 2 neighboring properties should be resolved before further approvals take place. Item 4. Have the appropriate traffic studies taken place? Item 5. Is this a historic building? Item 6. Will the building be brought up to current building codes? If P&Z proceeds with approving this request, we are asking for it to be granted with the following conditions. 1. Applicant follow all Connecticut laws on rental properties, including all Connecticut judicial requirements. 2. No storage of abandoned vehicles, trailer, or mobile homes. 3. Renters cannot have criminal or pedophile records, as there are children and children with disabilities in the existing dwellings. 4. Maintenance of all property and grounds should be kept. 5. No low income or Section 8 rentals. 6. No on-street parking. 7. Future renovations, additions for this property should not fall under 494 accessory regulations, including setbacks. Thank you. Antonia Roy, 8 Stonehouse Drive, Moosup, Connecticut 06354, 860-371-6451.
And just for a point of clarification on the application, this is a special permit for a 494 square foot accessory apartment, which would be one apartment, not multiple apartments. Is that correct?
Correct. It was originally there since the house was built. So it hasn't changed in any way.
So this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience with a comment or question about this application, yeah?
This is a detached apartment, right? It's not attached to a house or anything. Is that what an accessory apartment is?
No.
It is attached.
Would you like me to answer that question?
Yeah, please.
So our regulations do allow for accessory apartments set up in an in-law type of fashion, attached to the house with direct pass-through into the house.
So it is attached to another house?
It is attached, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions from the public? Any comments or questions from board members?
Mr. Porson, when was the building constructed?
I don't know what year the building was constructed. It was probably back 1900 sometime.
It was the earlier 1900s, John.
Yeah, it's been this way for...
It's been that way since it was built.
I could have a little history there. So what's being converted to an apartment now, or going through the proper procedure, was actually maid's quarters. There was a prominent family that built the house, contained a bathroom, bedroom, and a laundry area.
Is it your intention to rent this out as an apartment?
No, my intention was basically for the house is just because it was already there, is to get the actual variance that now it requires of it. Otherwise than that, it's more or less, the house is going to be sold, hopefully at one point, and it's for most likely, people with, like a mother-in-law or a father-in-law, because it's right in the house itself. It's not outside, it's in the house. So it's not really a rental kind of, that would rent it out to another person. This is family, more than likely, just because of the way the house is designed. It's not out, it's not like it's on the other end of a garage where they have their own way. This is actually in the house.
Thank you. Any other comments from staff?
No, this meets all of our regulations.
So hearing no other comments from the public, board members, or staff, I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion by John and a second by Lindsay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is closed. Moving on to item C, Z 2021-2151 of Nicholas Easton, requesting a map amendment to rezone a 3-acre parcel from RA 60 to RA 30 at 2 Pond Street, Moosup, map 1 MP, block 97, lot 97. And do we have speaking for the applicant?
My name is Nicholas Easton. I am the applicant, and I do a little math for you. My presentation isn't up to the standard of all the lawyers and whatever, but hopefully this will help you get a better sense of what I'm trying to do. Oops.
Your staff report still contain a zoning map as well.
First of all, I want to thank Ryan and Marion and their staff for helping me get this together and making a real nice shot of the area. The orange on this area is R19, as the key shows. The purple is industrial, and that is basically command factory, or as my wife likes to call it, Beirut. And the green is the commercial area. The uncolored area is R60. But the map is a little deceiving in that you can see the Moosup River marked in blue here along this little abutment that goes into the command and factory area. And all of this area adjacent to it, virtually, that is to the east of the Moosup River, the northern part of it, all of that is basically unusable because it's all hills going down to the river itself. Most of it, I should say. There are pieces of it that have houses on them already. But as you'll see, there's a huge portion of it that is just not usable. Okay, also, the number 5 on my map is a cemetery. So it's another area that's really not usable. Number 2 on my map is a non-conforming use trailer. Now, and number 3 on my map is the Hull residence. The reason that's there is that apparently this was done in 1972, just at the same time that the zoning ordinance was being adapted. Mr. Hull broke up his property into 3 pieces. I bought one of them. My house looks north and faces the factory and all of the R19 area. Mr. Hull's house, which is on Starkweather Road, faces that are 60 areas. So you can see there's a big difference that's been created by circumstances between the two pieces. So I just wanted to clarify that so you can see, get a better chance of the map to see what's going on. Now, second point, I know that people might have concerns that I want to develop this 3-acre parcel. That's not true. I bought that property in 2003. It was an abandoned warehouse that Mr. Hull had for sale. I fixed it up into a 5-bedroom home. My bedroom is on the first floor. On the lower level are 4 bedrooms that I built for my children, who all lived in Providence. I was moving from Providence. Now, as a great compliment to the town of Plainfield, all 4 of my kids, instead of coming to visit in using those units, or those rooms, they all sold their houses and bought houses in either Moose or Plainfield. 5 children. One of them, my oldest, he lived in Florida, so he did not buy one. So I now have a 4,000 square foot house that is occupied by myself and my wife. And what we want to do is rent out a portion of the downstairs, about 3/4 of the downstairs, so it would be about, I think it's a little less than about 1,200 square feet, and that, of course, is not an accessory unit allowable in an R60 zone. So I wanted to make it an R30 zone so that I could do that. In terms of any plans that I might have, or that this future owner might have, to build housing in that additional area, I remember a discussion, I think with Ryan, it may have been with Lou Sawyer, when I first got my building permit. I was talking about the land and what all this land was. And I was informed that I could not build any additional structures on there because there was a shortage of frontage on a city accepted street. So I don't think there's any possibility, even if you change the zoning, that somebody could build any additional property buildings without a whole subdivision application, etc. So I don't think that would be something that you could worry about. And as I say, I have no intention of doing that. I just want to be able to use the downstairs for the park. I think that's everything. Questions?
This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody in the audience with a comment or question on the application, this is your opportunity.
I'm Molly with Sterling Hill Road. I believe the property is on, whole property is on Sterling Hill
Yes.
Road, not Starkweather. And
Well, I'm sorry, did I say Starkweather? I'm wrong.
That's
Sterling
okay.
Hill Road, that's right.
And are you looking for apartments or are you looking to subdivide the land?
So today's application is a request to change the map amendment from an RA60 zone to an RA30 zone. So when that change happens, other functions would be allowable in an RA30 that are not allowable in an RA60. So at this current time, the application before us is the request for the map amendment change. Any additional would be a separate application after the fact.
Okay, thank you.
But just if I may clarify for Wendy, I don't think I could subdivide that if I wanted to without a huge rigmarole. I have no intention of doing that. I plan on staying here. But I don't think I could anyway because of the lack of frontage, so I don't think it would ever be an issue.
That's okay. I was just confused about
Sure.
the process of why are we talking about apartments when we're looking for a zone change. That's all. Thank you.
Understood, thank you. Anyone else from the audience, comment or question? Comments or questions from board members? Comments, questions from staff?
Just way out my report.
And I as well, my recommendations in my report.
So if there are no other comments from the public, from board members, or from staff members, I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion to close. Motion by Roz, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Item D, possible opt-out of state statute section 8-2, section 6 regarding accessory apartments. Ryan, did you want to present this on behalf of the commission?
Sure.
Thank you.
The state legislature has proposed language for the zoning regulations. They have what they feel is the ideal regulations when it comes to accessory apartments. And so they put together an actual, essentially text amendment that the towns must adopt. There is an opt-out provision, which is why we're holding a public hearing tonight. If we do not opt out, then we have to adopt this legislation, adopt this regulation, and if we fail to, then the state statutes supersede this and basically will control our regulations as far as accessory apartments go. Effective January 1st, 2022, this is the state legislation. All zoning regulations shall designate locations or zoning districts within municipality in which accessory apartments are allowed, which we do. Provided at least one accessory apartment shall be allowed as of right in each lot that contains a single-family dwelling, and no such accessory apartment shall be required to be an affordable accessory apartment. So currently, we only allow for one accessory apartment by special permit. This would require them to be allowed by right. The second would be allow accessory apartments to be attached or located within the proposed or existing principal dwelling, or detached from the proposed or existing principal dwelling and located on the same lot as such dwelling. So this legislation will require that apartments could be attached or detached. Currently, we only allow for attached. Set a maximum net floor area for an accessory apartment of not less than 30% of the net floor area of the principal dwelling, or 1,000 square feet, whichever is less, except that such regulations may allow for a larger net floor area for such apartments. And we currently allow up to 600 square feet for a max size. Require setbacks, lot size, and building frontage less than or equal to what is required for the principal dwelling, and require lot coverage greater or equal to that which is required for the principal dwelling. So basically it says that you cannot impose stricter regulations on accessory apartments than you do for a single-family home. You cannot provide for height, landscaping, and architectural design standards that do not exceed any such standards as they apply to single-family dwellings. Again, you have to follow the same regulations as with a single-family home. Be prohibited from requiring a passageway between such accessory apartment and such principal dwelling, which we currently do require. We would not be able to require that. An exterior door for any such accessory apartment, except as required by applicable building code or fire code. We require an exterior door for safety. I don't know if building code requires that or not. More than one parking space for any such accessory apartment. We currently require 2 parking spaces for each dwelling unit. This would only allow us to require 1. Or fees in lieu of parking otherwise allowed by Section 8(2)(c) of the general statutes, which we don't require fees in lieu of. Familial, marital, or employment relationship between occupants of the principal dwelling and accessory apartment. We cannot exclude that, which we don't anyway. Minimum age for occupants of the accessory apartment, we don't require that either. Separate billing of utilities are otherwise connected to or used by the principal dwelling unit, which we require utilities to be the same as the house. Periodic renewals for permits of accessory apartments, we don't require that either. So the procedure for opting out is first the Planning and Zoning Commission must hold a public hearing, which we are doing tonight. A two-thirds vote of the commission is required to approve, and the decision must be published as with any commission decision. Then it moves on to the selectmen, and the selectmen must ratify with a two-thirds vote at a town meeting.
So this is a public hearing, so if there's anybody in the audience with a comment or question about this issue, now is your opportunity.
Unfortunately, you really can't hear anything you say without being on the mic.
Do you have copies of that?
We don't. I can buy one to you tomorrow.
So in essence, what the state has proposed is to change to allow accessory apartments by right, whereas the town of Plainfield currently has it by special permit. So that's one of the big changes. So if we choose to opt out, we would be maintaining our current process of the special permitting process rather than going with the state's proposal to have it by right. So essentially, every single-family home in Plainfield would have the right to put an accessory apartment without special permit or public hearing. So that is one of the key pieces of this. The second part is parking, which is in the second opt-out, because it's a different section. But that's the main summary of the reason we're discussing an opt-out.
I would be, probably agree, I would say it would be wise to opt out.
Thank you. Anyone else with a comment or question on this opt-out provision? Yes, Mr. Cunningham.
Kevin Cunningham, 405 Moose Pond Road. I think that what was written by Ryan does give a good view of what the differences are between the state and what we currently have. I myself like what we currently have. Having one of the bigger keys down here, our sewer department charges extra sewer use, and they would be prohibited from doing so in the future. So that's another big thing that we need to look at. So I would be in favor of opting out.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes.
Edgewater, 177 Black Hill Road. What problems would the state cause for the towns that opt out? Could
There's
they
an opt-out
eventually-
provision, so there's no withholding of funds or anything.
No, not at all. Not if the town follows the proper process and opts out within the timeframes.
Okay. Gentleman over here.
Are you talking about the 52 houses?
No, this is about state legislation and whether we're going to follow it. I'll make it clear.
Anybody anyway?
Okay, sorry. Anyone else comment or question on the opt-out provision?
June Gagnon. Yeah, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with allowing the state to choose. We should keep people accountable through this traditional process.
Thank you. Comments or questions from board members? Any additional comments from staff?
I'd just like to include that when it was proposed as Bill 6107, I had given a bullet point synopsis of what was being proposed to members, so I didn't reiterate that in my report. Just that the state of Connecticut, in its infinite wisdom, has decided to adopt into law Public Act 21-29, which is this legislation that basically makes a one-size-fits-all for the state of Connecticut without taking into account that the towns, we've got rural towns that don't have public infrastructure, we've got large cities where it may very well be appropriate, but one size does not fit all in this case.
Any other comments? All right, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Kathy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Moving on to item E, possible opt-out, state statute section 8-2, 4B, subsection D, subsection 9, regarding parking spaces. I'll take this one, Ryan.
Sure.
All right. There's something to benefit, right? All right. 8-2, section 4B, subsection D, subsection 9, shall not require more than one parking space for a single bedroom dwelling unit and not more than 2 parking spaces for a dwelling unit with 2 or more bedrooms, effective October 1st, 2021. Currently, our regulations require 2 parking spaces per dwelling. As we live in a rural area with little to no public transportation, the majority of households have at least 2 vehicles. Reducing the 2 parking space requirement could lead to issues with parking on the road. Opt-out procedure. Planning and Zoning Commission must hold a public hearing. That's why we're here tonight. A 2/3 vote to opt out is required to approve. Decision must be published. As with any PZC decision, the selectmen must ratify with a 2/3 vote. Shorter and sweeter on that one. Any comments or questions from the public on this provision, the parking provision? Yes.
I agree that we should keep this town rural, and I agree that we should opt out of this. provision.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes, Mr. Cunningham.
Kevin Cunningham, 405 Moosa Pond Road. Same issues here. This is the state of Connecticut trying to enforce one rule to fit all of the municipalities, and this does not fit ours. This definitely doesn't fit. We've been doing well with this without it, and I believe we should opt out.
Any other comments from the public? Any comments or questions from board members? Any comments from staff? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Roz, second by John, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Item F, Z 2021-2104 of RMD Land Development LLC requesting a special permit for elderly housing project 52 one-bedroom units on property located on Tarbox Road, Plainfield, map 10, block 14A, lot 47, RA60 zoning district. Now, it's my understanding that the applicant is not prepared for this evening and has asked that we postpone.
Correct. I don't believe there's anybody here to represent, is there? Okay. So, it's my recommendation that we do not open the public hearing tonight, so we do not start the clock, just table it until next month.
Okay, so is it a motion to postpone or?
Well, table without opening.
Postpone the opening.
Okay, so given that information and the applicant is not present and requested postponement, I will entertain a motion to postpone the public hearing for Z 2021-2104.
The residents be mailed an actual
Point of order, Chairman.
Hold on one moment.
Will the residents be mailed a notification of the opening?
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Okay, and gentleman in the back?
This is item F on your,
This is item F.
and you have people here with concerns.
So we are,
It's not our fault that this guy didn't show up.
but the public hearing is not open. So there is no public comment on the application at this moment because the public hearing has not been opened. So the board is considering the request to postpone the public hearing until the next meeting. So that is the motion on the floor, and we do have a second. So all in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? So this public hearing has been postponed until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
So for the record, can I get on this? I have physical conditions and I can't be coming back and forth here. I have a well that borders that.
So, sir, unfortunately, we cannot take public comment on this application because the public hearing is not open. If you have concerns, you can submit them to the Planning and Zoning Office during their regularly scheduled business hours.
Okay.
Sure. It will be on next month's agenda, so there's no action. No action on this application. All right. So I'm calling the regular meeting to order. We do have one item to add to the agenda. Under new business, item E, Z 2021-2145 of Ecos Energy LLC, requesting a modification to the approved site plan for Phase 3 solar project located at 77 Plainfield Pike Road, map 17, block 36, lot 37, industrial 1 zone. Do I have a motion to add that to the agenda under new business? Motion by Roz, second by John. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, added under new business. And is that item E or should that be item A? Because it looks like there was no other new business on the agenda, so just a...
We had a, yeah, so I'm sorry, we had a few things that weren't supposed to be on the agenda, so.
Okay, so it's actually item A. Okay, thank you. All right. So item 5, citizen participation. This is the public's opportunity to address the committee on something that is not a public hearing. Any comments? Thank you.
Just one quick one.
Yeah.
Was there an amendment to the planning and zoning agenda?
There was.
That's why. Okay.
That's why I had the item T listed for that, because we had to do a few things.
And what date was that?
I don't recall, I think it was last week.
Okay.
It was filed August 2nd, 10:57 a.m.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to unfinished old business. Item A, Z 2021-2048, continuation of KA&G Development, LLC, requesting a two-lot re-subdivision on property located on Sterling Hill Road, Moosup, map 23, lot 58, lot 6, RA 40 zoning district. Items for discussion among board members. So it looks like there's already open space in the subdivision. And this was a modification to a previously approved. So if there are no points of discussion, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve by Lindsay, second by Roz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, application is approved. Item B, Z 2021-1963, continuation of Northeast Real Estate requesting site plan approval for contractor buildings, 11,840 square foot and 2,400 square foot at 135-141 Ward Ave, Moosup, Assessors map 2M, block 94C, lot 11.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Commission, for the record, my name is Norm Tebow. I'm Killen Engineering Associates. I'm here representing Northeast Real Estate this evening. It's been kind of a long and arduous process with this particular application. We originally submitted it way back in December, and at the time we were told that this particular use was not allowed in this zone. I think it's important to note that this exact use was actually approved on this property at one point in 2017. But apparently the interpretation of the regulations said that we weren't able to come back in with the same use on the same property. The difference is that the original use proposed one building. It was about 8,400 square feet, as Madam Chair said. We've got 11,840 square foot building and 2,400 square foot building. This is on the former command property. This is really a redevelopment of the site. All the area where this activity is proposed was previously disturbed. It's been part of the command property for many, many years. What we're doing is we've got the larger building kind of oriented in the north-south direction. The smaller building in the east-west direction. The Moosup River is right here. So the focus, a lot of the focus on this particular design was to make sure that we were able to meet the water quality standards so that we wouldn't have any illicit discharges to the Moosup River here. Early on, discussions with CHA, we agreed that the approach here would be not to detain stormwater here because we've got about a 6,000 acre watershed above this that comes through the site at a much later time, so it really wasn't a good idea to try and detain the water. The stormwater here when you're going to have such a rush later on. So what we did is we chose to treat the stormwater accordingly and discharge the Moosup River, and that's what we did here. As you can see, we've got we've got a paved area here, and this will be a contractor's storage building. The intention here is to rent out spaces to contractors. They could be a plumbing contractor, a cabinet contractor, a carpenter, whatever. There's different things. No manufacturing is actually proposed with these buildings at all. It would be simply a place for people to set up shop. Maybe store some equipment, store some vehicles, and come there in the morning, hopefully grab their vehicles and move on to the site for the day. So even though we've got a total of 9 different spaces here, we don't really anticipate any significant traffic activity, obviously just in the morning and in the evening, when workers come to either pick up their equipment or their trucks and so forth, and leave the site. So most of the comments have been addressed with CHA. I was in some conversation with Chucky today. The main thing that was left really was the photometrics plan. So back on June 8th, I prepared a lighting plan, which actually showed the lighting intensities. What we're doing for lighting here is we've got dark sky compliant building mounted lights. That's it. They're going to be mounted 10 feet high on the building above the pass doors for the people to get in and out of the building. The buildings themselves are going to be 16 to 18 feet high, so the chance of light bleeding out to the adjacent properties is pretty much impossible, just because of the way that the lights face. I do have a photograph that I'd like to share with the commission of what these lights actually look like when they're on. Very low intensity lighting. Another thing I think is important to note too is that this building here, this site in general is about 20 feet lower than Ward Avenue. So the actual elevation of the light is going to be about 10 feet below Ward Avenue. And the projection of the lights will be essentially downward as well. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Where we are now, there is public water, public sewer out here. We are going to be connecting by a force main to a manhole in Ward Avenue. And there is water on the site itself for the existing building that actually the applicant owns himself now as well. They recently extended a water line from Union Street into the site, so there is water available from that point on the site as well. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Any questions from board members? Or additional comments from staff or engineer?
All my comments have been addressed.
Yes.
So it looks like the outstanding issue, and Chuck, if you could just confirm, so currently there's not a photometric plan with the application?
So, for the record, Chuck Eaton, town engineer, the photometrics that Mr. Tebow received from the lighting manufacturer, unfortunately, they only show like the maximum amount of light intensity. So it doesn't, it doesn't show how far that light bleeds off from where you have the maximum amount of light. Like Norm said, I agree with the fact that there shouldn't be any lighting trespass or anything like that, but based on town regulations, the commission should have an accurate photometric plan.
And I did speak to the manufacturer today on that, because we went back and forth. Chuck asked for particular cut sheets, and he kept sending me the same one. Oh, this is the one you want, this is the one. I was like, no, you keep giving me that one. I'm asking for something specific, and you would think it would be something pretty simple that they could send me, but unfortunately they can't. So after a number of exchanges with the manufacturer, they said, well, we can produce a photometrics plan for you. And I said, well, can you do it today? And they said, well, no, but we can do that if it's required. So what I would ask of the commission is that if this is something that you're going to require, I believe the applicant is more than willing to provide that as a condition of approval, just so that you have something for the record. I think this is a pretty simple case in logic. If you look at the size of the building, where the lights are going, and what direction they're pointing in, there's really not going to be any bleed onto any of the adjacent properties here.
And then the proposed parking lot pole that's shown on the plan, would that be revised to be removed, or was there a note?
Yeah, exactly. I actually took it off this plan here. It was actually shown right here. And we had had multiple ones on there, and then we decided not to go with them, and that was just one, is basically a drafting error.
Okay, so that'll be revised when,
Absolutely.
okay. All right, so the items I have noted, if the commission sees fit to approve with conditions, would be that the photometric plan from the manufacturer be submitted, that the revised plan removing the lot hole, and then design engineer must provide stamped and signed plans and drainage calculations for town records. Are there any other items from staff or board members on this application?
The plans and the drainage computation were provided.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Today, was it?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay, excellent. All right. Any other items for discussion on board members? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
There are condition, one more condition approval.
Oh, did I miss one?
Engineering fees to be paid prior to final bylaws or within 30 days.
Okay.
What was that? I didn't hear that.
Engineering fees to be paid prior to filing bylaws or within 30 days.
Does the board have any idea what these engineering fees cost? People haven't given a bill, see a bill, what the engineering costs from third.
That is handled by the staff.
But you guys never see it. So you don't know what it costs us to have this third-party engineer review these drawings.
It is on the staff budget, so it's publicly available information.
And just to give you an example, we just got this letter today in reference to this lighting issue. Today, we received it with no time to respond to have you drawing here. And we submitted about a month and a half ago to the engineer for to get this. We just got remarks today.
So if you,
What happens?
thank you for the notification. So, items for board members.
I just want to make that clear. I'm not understanding that because I've heard this before, sitting on the board, that you needed to do this. So I'm not understanding why you just got the letter.
Well, I guess my biggest concern, being a developer in the town, I hire an engineer who's a licensed engineer.
I'm just going to have a point of order. If there's an administrative process with the zoning department, that would be handled with the zoning department during regularly scheduled business hours. So it might not necessarily be a conversation for this evening. So just a point of order on that. No, it's okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we received the revised plans yesterday.
Okay, noted. So any timeline issues can be addressed with staff in the office. Any other items? So we have the one item that was already addressed, which was the providing the stamped and signed plans, which Norm indicated was submitted, the photometric manufacturing plan, the engineering fees to be paid, and I believe that covered it, and the revision for the lot hole. Are there any other items for commission members' consideration? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion to approve the application with
Conditions as read.
conditions as read, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion by Roz to approve with the conditions as read into the record. Do I have a second? I have a second by John. All in favor of approving the application with those conditions? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Application is approved. Item C, Z 2021-2044, continuation of Edgewater Construction, Inc., requesting a site plan review for proposed construction of 3 trade contractor unit buildings, along with site infrastructure such as parking, lighting, drainage, and water and sewer laterals on property located on corner of East Parkway and Center Parkway, I Park, Plainfield, Connecticut, map 17, block 11, lot I-012, IP zoning district.
And the applicant was not able to attend tonight, however, the letter was provided in the packet, explanation. And the applicant would like you to read that.
Into the record?
Yes, this is a letter to all the commission members.
Okay.
Since it could not be here.
Sure. Make sure I'm reading the right letter. Because there were 2 letters?
August 10th, 2021.
Okay. August 10th, 2021, Town of Plainfield Planning and Zoning Commission. Application for Lot 7 and 12, Plainfield I Park. Dear Commission members, unfortunately, I am not able to attend this meeting this evening to represent my client, Edgewater Construction, regarding the 2 pending applications in the industrial park. I would appreciate if this letter could be distributed to Commission members or read aloud at the meeting. I have already given a detailed presentation concerning these 2 projects at the previous meeting. At the conclusion of that meeting, there were 2 outstanding items. The first issue was regarding drainage systems on Lot 12, and I was instructed to increase the storage capacity of the drainage system. I revised the site plan for Lot 12 so that the shallow bioretention area has been converted into a deeper infiltration basin. I believe this issue has been addressed to the satisfaction of the town's engineer, Chuck Eaton, and the revised site plan complies with all relevant drainage requirements. The second issue is regarding the exterior lighting. The zoning regulations state that no light trespass is permitted at the boundary lines. I assumed that this would be interpreted to mean 0-foot candles at the boundary. I instructed my lighting designer to prepare a photometric diagram that would meet this requirement. My lighting designer provided me with the original photometrics, also known as Lighting Plan A, and stated it should be acceptable. This plan was described by the town's engineer as having 0.4-foot candles at the boundaries. It was my understanding that this plan would be acceptable since 0.4, when rounded down to the nearest whole number, would be equal to 0. However, it was your opinion that 0.4 was too much and that a revised lighting plan was necessary. When I asked the Commission what number would be acceptable, I was told to ask ZEO Ryan Bray. After the meeting, Ryan instructed me via email to submit a photometric diagram that resulted in 0-foot candles at all boundaries. I went back to my lighting designer and asked him to produce photometrics that would meet the requirement of 0-foot candles. My lighting designer provided me with a revised plan, Lighting Plan B, and said it would be the best he could do. This plan results in approximately 0.1-foot candles at the boundaries. However, it does not have the minimum amount of lighting required for pedestrian safety in much of the parking lot, and my lighting designer said he would not recommend it. Then I asked my lighting designer for a 3rd time to prepare photometrics with 0 at the boundaries using any possible brand or model of exterior lights. My lighting designer provided me with Lighting Plan C, which also does not meet the 0 requirement and does not have a safe amount of light in the parking lot. I have submitted 4 copies of each lighting plan for each lot with a brief memo summarizing. Based on the plans described above, it is clear that it is physically impossible to achieve 0-foot candles at the boundaries while maintaining a safe amount of light in the parking lot 20 feet away. It is apparent that the only way to meet a requirement of 0 would be to remove all exterior lights from the site. Meeting the requirement of 0 is 100 times more difficult than plain 0 without any decimals. For every decimal point that is added, the amount becomes 10 times smaller. If no light was interpreted in the most literal sense, meaning 0.00, then virtually anything could be too bright, since if an object is visible, then it must have a brightness greater than 0. I am therefore asking the Commission to reconsider their previous decision and approve these applications using the original photometrics Lighting Plan A. This is the only plan that provides an adequate amount of light for pedestrian safety. Additionally, I believe the plan does meet the requirements in the zoning regulations, as well as generally accepted standards for industrial parks. For a requirement of 0-foot candles, anything below 0.4999 should be acceptable according to basic mathematical principles. If the Commission is firm that 0.4-foot candles is too much, then I ask the Commission to consider voting on the applications with a condition of approval that one of the alternate lighting plans be used. The Commission could require Plan B, C, or no exterior lights to be implemented on the final Mylars to be filed with the Town Clerk. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I believe that both of these projects will be of great benefit to the town and surrounding community, bringing in both jobs and tax dollars. I sincerely hope the Commission will vote to approve these projects. Daniel Blanchette, PE, J&D Civil Engineers, LLC. Did staff want to address any of the items in the letter?
The only thing I wanted to clarify is that he stated that I told him to come in with 0.00 at the property lines. And I said it's my understanding from listening to the Commission that that is what the Commission desired. So that's what I informed him. I'm not telling him to do that.
And also, we're dealing with regulations. So in essence, I mean, the regulations are what the regulations are. And you can't exempt or waive regulations unless there's a specific exemption or waiver in the regulations.
Well, you can interpret them differently. Saying 0.00 might be, at the property line, might be a little too strict, because when these regulations were written, we didn't have lighting diagrams down to 100 of the foot candle. So a lot of times you get down to the nearest foot candle, or maybe a tenth of a foot candle, but not 100.
Well, once again, we have to deal with the regulations as they're written currently. So if we find a flaw in the regulations, then it's on us to make adjustments to the regulations, which we cannot do on the fly with an application in front of us.
Well, you can't, but you can use judgment.
Only if the regulations allow discretion or judgment, which it's my understanding that this particular part of the regulation does not allow that discretion. Any other board members have item for discussion on this? Or Chuck, if you want to address anything that was in the letter?
Madam Chair, I guess I can speak to the foot candle argument. You know, usually this is not something that you would round down. It is if you're required to have 2 parking spaces and you provide 1.8, or if you're required to have 1.8 parking spaces, do you only provide 1? Or 1.4 parking spaces, do you only provide 1? No, you have to provide 2. So it's not the type of thing that do you have light trespass or not? It's my personal opinion, and based on my experience working with many towns in this same position, typically we look at 0.0 or a tenth of a foot candle when we're looking at lighting plans. I'm not saying that that's what we need to do here, that's just typical.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are other operations able to meet 0.0 foot candles?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not impossible to meet 0 foot candles?
No. And, you know, this is one lighting engineer and professional engineer's opinion that it's impossible to meet this.
You've seen it done?
Sure, it's done on your other applications.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we just approved one tonight.
That was it.
So in instances where you can't meet that standard, are there any mitigating factors that could be applied to address the light trespass?
Well, usually the lighting companies, so the way this typically works is the lighting manufacturers offer lighting design in order to sell their products. So if you want to put up building lights or parking lot lights, you can go to that manufacturer and say, here's my site plan, and they will put together and engineer the lighting plan showing the foot candles for you, such that their lighting can then be used. They have employed a lot of different shielding mechanisms, and with the new LED lights, which are very directional with minimal glare, let's say, there are many different options that you can use to try and control this light. You know, another issue is the size of the lots. Just because the light doesn't work in that one position where you have it on the building, does that mean that could you move the building further away from the property line to help reduce the light trespass, or could you provide more of a buffer between the development and the property line? You know, there's all different types of design scenarios that you could integrate to try and, you know, meet the regulations.